Hey coaches, welcome back to Football Talk with Coach Chip. Today we're going to be looking at how a method of scouting and preparing for your next opponent. A good buddy of mine sent this to me. He's in administration now, looking at an old jump drive, and he said, "Oh man, yeah, chip it like this." And it's very helpful. It's some of the things we already do. It tells you what to look for, like we assign our assistant coaches, different things. And that's what this scheme does, or this way of doing it does. And so this is going to be more like a podcast today. It's not going to be X's and O's. It's not going to be video clips. It's going to be more like a podcast. I'm going to show you these ideas. You can get a copy of it. I've already made a presentation that you can get. That all you got to do is say, "Hey coach, I subscribe," and I'll send it to you. Email it right back to you as an attachment. But it's scouting and prepping for your next opponent. It's a system. It is a systematic way of doing that. Let's get started and reduce this big head of mine. We're going to look at it from the coordinators, OC, DC, and special teams coordinator, and also look at it position by position. Now, on the defensive side, I didn't do outside linebackers, inside linebackers. I just did linebackers. This, of course, is something that you can tweak and make it to fit your staff, depending on the size of your staff. Real quick, before we get in the meat and taters of this whole video, subscribe. Go ahead and click on like. Go ahead and click on subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I don't understand what's holding some of y'all back. And also, share it. Send this out. This is a good one to share, because I think you can take this and tweak it and make it fit any level of coaching. All right, here we go. What should the offensive coordinator look for on film when you're breaking down your opponent? Obviously, base defense, base coverage. Do they have blitz tendencies, like down and distance? Who do they send? Most high school teams and sub-varsity teams have a kid who is just a lot better than the other ones, and he's kind of at doing certain things, and that would be their designated blitzer. One of the linebackers may be better at dropping into pass coverage or playing man on a back out of the backfield, and so the other one is blitzing. And so you want to pick up blitz tendencies, things you can tell your O-line guys. How do they align to oversets and unbalanced formations? What I mean by oversets, and I don't consider it technically it is unbalanced, but when you take like the left wide receiver and flip him over to the right, now you got two wide receivers, but one of them is covered and ineligible. I love doing that, especially coming out of timeouts and to start drives. How do they align to that? Do they recognize it? Do they just bump? What do they do? Okay, do they check? Find out that. And sometimes you can't tell because of the film you have on them, it doesn't do it. That's why it behooves you to save your film and also to save your notes. Have a file so you can go back and look from year to year, especially when the other team's staff pretty much stays intact. Do they flip their defensive front? Defensive ends, linebackers, etc. Mainly I'm talking, and some of them do outside backers too. They'll have a field guy and a boundary guy. But I'm talking about like in the box. Is there one DN that he stands in the middle of the formation and sees where the strength is, and he goes to the strength? Okay, that's usually going to be their best run defender. That'd be a good week to work on your weak side runs, to pick on that cat. Do they flip their linebackers, things like this. This is stuff you need to know because it's going to affect your play calling. It's going to affect your scripting. It's going to affect what am I going to run on third and short. If it's third and short and we're going to load up to the right, and they're going to put their best three technique over there on my right, maybe it's a good time to run back to my left. How do they determine formation strength? This is really big, like a lot of defenses versus a 2-by-2 spread. Some will set this, and a lot of it's based on the other, what the offense does. But some defenses will set the strength to the back if you do an offset or a sidecar, and some will set it away from the back. I've seen it done both ways. We've done it both ways. And of course, a lot of that depends on how the offense attacks. If they're running a lot of H and running back on the same side and running same side power, that would be the side you'd want to probably that week declare as the strong side as a defensive coach. Okay, if they're doing it where the back's on one side and the H and the tight end on the other, the H and the tight end side may be where you want to declare the strength. You got to figure that out as an OC. Where are they declaring the strength? And sometimes that's hard to do on film. Okay. Do they roll DBs to motion, or do they just slide or bump everything? Especially, their linebackers. Everybody just bumps over. Does the backside, if you run your Z or slide in motion, does the backside outside linebacker just rotate back to the back, and then the safety rotates down to the front to the motion? How do they do that? It's a great way of finding out if they're in man, what kind of coverage they're running. They'll give it away a lot of times with motion. So you got to ask yourself, do we need to run motion this week, or we can tell what they're doing? And if we do run motion, and motion's a major part of our offense, how does the defense react to motion? Who are the best DL? Who's the best D lineman, best linebacker, best DB? Do we need to trap or read their best DL? If it's a tackle, a 3-tech, and he's really good at defending double teams, at defeating them, maybe we need to trap him. Is he real aggressive running up the field? Yes, trap him by all means, or read him. Can we isolate or RPO their best linebacker? Is the guy real aggressive, especially that backside backer? Is he real aggressive? If he is, that's a good RPO candidate. Can we isolate him? Is he a sideways player? He's a pretty good athlete. He's a good tackler, but he likes making plays from the side, running things down. That'd be a good guy to pick on with an isolation, like wrap your guard or fold your H in there and see what that cat can do. Or do we need to throw under or over their best DB? And you say, throw over their best DB, they must not have a very good. Now, some DBs are really good, very physical. They're just not really good at playing deep. And they're not good at tracking a ball in the air. And a lot of that is natural. But there may be just an undersized linebacker kind of kid, and he's out there playing, and he's a whale of a DB. But you can beat him deep. There's a lot more to playing DB, especially at the high school level, than defending deep balls. And remember now, they're playing what gets off their bus in the morning too. By the same token, we said find the best, find the weakest. Who's the one when it gets down to the nut cutting, who are we going to pick on? We got to have 3 yards. It's 3rd and 3. What are we going to do? We're going to run right at their worst D lineman and double team his fanny. Okay? Or what else are we going to do? Pick on their linebacker. It's 3rd and 6. We need to throw the football. Go to the weakest, attack the weakest DB. These are things we need to know. All right. What will be our game plan to attack them? How are we going to attack them? We're going to run the ball. We're going to mix it up. We need to throw the ball. What are we going to do? Look at these questions and kind of help you how you're going to attack them. Can we gash them? Can we line up and just run right at them? Can we get outside? They're really physical. They're really good inside, but they're slow. We can get outside. Misdirection. Do we need to run a lot of counter, reverses? Okay, thing where we fake one way and come back the other kind of stuff. Or fake left and outside and run downhill on the same side. Is misdirection a good thing this week? Sometimes your best defenses are susceptible to misdirection. Can we fast screen them? Can we slow screen them? Do they play technique or attack? What I mean by that, are they reading hats? Are they squeezing down blocks? Are they just attacking, pinning the ears back, getting upfield, trying to create havoc in the backfield? Are they just controlling their gaps? What are they doing? Are the linebackers pluggers? They're getting downhill and they're inserting. When they read clear, here they come. Or are they fast flow? When they see action, they're gone. As soon as that running back takes off to the right, they're taking off. Things like this. You need to see these things. This is why film study matters. Who has their force? Who's their contain guy? Are they all umbrella players? What I mean by that is everybody taking everything on with their inside shoulder, trying to keep everything inside of them. Or are they taking everything on with their outside shoulder inside, trying to bounce everything, spill everything to the outside for their outside backers and safeties to make plays? What kind of defense are they? It matters. These things matter. And the only way you can find that out is to go watch them. And there's some advantages to that. The problem with watching it in person is you can't rewind it. But there are things you can hear, like snap count, when you go in person. I was going to talk about this later, but I'll go ahead and do it now. There's things you can do, coaches, when you're live. You can get there early. You can watch special teams. You can actually get a hang time on their punt. You can actually get a get-off time on their punt. You can watch their snapper with nobody else around him. How accurate is he? I'm going to tell you something. If he's not accurate with nobody on him, then how accurate is he going to be with somebody on him? Or with somebody, to his left and to his right? And with, a bunch of people in the stands. So these are the kind of things you can get by going in person. But the number one drawback of having a scout at a game is the scout can't rewind it. Okay. Now, here's what I recommend. If you have somebody you trust, when I say trust, I don't mean trust them, with their character. I mean, you trust them. They know football well enough to scout for you. Get them a mini recorder or get the app on their phone and call the game like they're calling it on radio. And then you can come back later and listen to it play by play, and you can diagram it. And it's almost like if you got a good imagination like Coach Chip, you can see it. You can see it in your mind's eye. All right, those are things that the OC needs to look for when watching film. All right, what about the DC? Just like the OC, what type of offense do they run? They're a spread team. Does that mean they like to throw it? Well, crap, no, that doesn't mean they like to throw it. No, a lot of teams spread it to run it. They're going to spread out, see what you're in, and run zone, counter, whatever, based on how you are. And if you're not out there covering guys, they may throw fast screens on you, now passes, stuff like that. And I don't consider those passes. Those are just sweeps, extension of the run game, long handoffs, if you will. So what type of offense do they run? Just because they run spread doesn't mean they're pass happy. Just because they run some version of the wing T doesn't mean they're run happy. They may be balanced as crap. There's been a lot of good quarterbacks come out of the wing T system over the years. It's not just a run only, offense. Go back and look at some of the old 49ers film from the 80s. And except for the wing back, that backfield looks a lot like a wing T backfield. Except they take the wing and they split him out. And they're running traps, they're running belly, they're running counter, and they're doing it out of that formation. And nobody would ever accuse a Bill Walsh team of being run happy. All right. So what type of offense do they run? What are their top plays? When it gets down to it, when they got to have it, are they going to run power? Are they going to run zone? Are they a counter team? Okay. They love to run jet. Okay. Are they balanced? I'm not talking about the Mike Leach form of balance. I'm talking about the traditional form of balance. Are they 50-50, especially on first down? What DC needs to know, what are they on first down? The only neutral down in football that you can count on. You're good either way. It's a run down, it's a pass down, it's a trick play down. How balanced are they? What are their top 5 formations? What are the 5 formations they run the most? And do them in order. Pro right is their top formation, and then pro left is their second, then twins right. Anything like that, you need to know this so you can work on it during the week, and your kids can get used to lining up versus these formations. Now, that don't mean you don't cover other things. You got to cover things. They got to be prepared. Do they motion? Or is a guy moving when the ball is snapped, like a jet motion? Or do they do a lot of shifting? They're going to line up strength one way and then flip it, strength the other way. You've got to practice this. If the first time your kids see this is Friday night, you're screwed. You got to practice this. And this is why it's important that you have like pre-practice meetings with your scout team. It gives them a sense of importance. Hey, they're meeting with us. And also it gives your defense a better picture. All right, let them know, let your scouts know what they're doing. And it ain't got to be exact terminology by any stretch. You can make stuff up week to week. You got a kid that kid, what makes it. Hey, when I call this, you go here. When I call this, you go here. What type of pass pro do they use? Are they vertical pass set? Do they full slide? What do they do? Do they like to run to their sideline? Especially a lot of old school guys, and there's still some of them out there. They love to run to their boundary because they're calling the play right there. They can see, they can talk to the quarterback. That's one of the great things about high school football is the hash marks are the original hash marks that the pros and college used to use back when I was a kid. But in high school, they're still over there. The field's divided into perfect thirds. Did y'all know that? The same distance between the hash to the sideline is the same distance in the middle of the field from hash to hash. The field's divided into perfect thirds. I wrote a paper on this actually in college back in 1983, 84. And my study, and this was when it was hard to get tape now, I did some stuff, got some VHS tape off TV of Auburn when Pat Dye was running the wishbone. He was going to run 75, 80% into the boundary. And you could see at the end of the play, the coach getting the quarterback and calling the next play. And there's something to be said for that. So if they run to their sideline a lot, if they're into the boundary team and it's their sideline, that's a big tell. That may be where you want to call your strength. All right, do they huddle? This is another thing you gain from going in person. I make sure my camera guy doesn't show us not huddling. You see us lining up, we could have just broke the huddle. If you've never played us, then you don't know if we're a huddle team or not. And if there is no huddle, do they tempo? Again, something else you really can't pick up on film if their cameraman is a smart cookie. Turn that camera off when the whistle blows, make it a 3 count, and then as the team starts lining up, they turn it back on. So you don't know if they huddled, you don't know how much time was going in between. All these kind of things matter when you're playing, when you're getting ready to play a team. Do they huddle? If there is no huddle, do they tempo? And this is where, I don't have anybody there in person. Talk to people who've played them. Coaches are a giving lot. Do they quick kick with their quarterback? This is good to know on 3rd and forever. Who do we have to stop them? Who is their bell cow? Who is the dude that makes them click? Is it the quarterback? Is it the running back? I got a buddy, great defensive coach. He said, one guy's never going to beat me. I'm going to take that away. Whatever, you may beat us doing something else, is what he would say. But you're not going to beat me with that guy. I've seen him do it. I've seen him take a guy completely away and win the game. I've seen him take a guy completely away and lose the game because somebody else beat him. He said, but you're not going to beat me with your best pitch, is what he says. I'm going to come up to the plate. If you're a fastball team, I'm going to sit dead fastball the entire at bat. And if you get me on an off-speed pitch, so be it. But you're not going to beat me doing what you do best. All right, who is their OC? This matters, personality-wise. Do you know him? You know what he likes. You sat around, you drank a beer with him at the clinic. You saw him at the coaches convention at the state capitol. Or is he new? Fine, especially early in the season. Make some phone calls to where he came from. Say, hey, what kind of, it matters. Okay? Find out where he was last year. Get some info on him, especially early in the year. Do they go for it on 4th down? This is a big deal. Now, why is this a big deal? Because 3rd and 6 at midfield now becomes 2nd and 6 versus a team that goes for it on 4th down. 3rd and 6 is normally throw the ball down, okay, or run a running play outside. That's one of your best plays that can get you 6-7 yards. But if it's 3rd and 6 at midfield, and this team has a reputation of going for it on 4th down, the defensive coordinator's call needs to be more like a 2nd and 6 call, because knowing that OC is going to run something maybe like power and get 3 or 4 yards. Now he's 4th and 2, 4th and 3. And he's got a doable down. He can run power again or whatever, their need 3 yards play is. So it matters if you've got to know their history, the other team's history, the OC, the other play caller's history. What is his history? Is he a trick play guy? But does he go for it on 4th down? That's a biggie. That's why you've got to pay attention to the down markers when you're watching film. Even if the film's not tagged properly, usually the camera is on the press box side away from the sticks. Try to zoom in on those sticks and find out, is it fourth down? Other things, can we blitz them? Who is their weakest OL? We want to blitz or stunt him. Is their quarterback right-handed? Okay, that matters because teams that have a left-handed quarterback tend to be a left-leaning team. What are their tendencies? Formation tendencies, down and distance tendencies. What do they do? What is their snap count? This is hard to get on film. Something else I tell our cameraman, don't have the audio on. That's why it's good to have somebody at the game. If for no other reason, they go, they watch pregame warm-up, check those things out like punts, all that kind of stuff, and then check out their snap count. Most of the other stuff you can get on film. Do they use a hard count a lot, especially on 3rd and 3? I'll tell you another good one, a hard count situation, 3rd and 6. Because if the defense jumps, now you're 3rd and 1. Okay, and that's a good time to do it too. So do they hard count? Practice that. You need to practice that every week. Practice it a lot, even more, in weeks where you play a team that does a hard count a lot. When I say hard count, I don't mean going on 2. I mean a sure enough hard count. Motion, boom, like you've seen me on film on my jet stuff. We're going to put that guy in jet motion and we're going to say, go! Right when that jetter gets to the quarterback, and we're going to see if you'll jump. We're doing it for no other reason to get you to jump. Do they use swinging gate or polecat on extra point? Now, that kind of goes along depending on the team. Our team, the DC, handles defense on extra points and field goal. Some places it's the special teams coach. But at our place, the defensive coordinator handles the defense for the extra point and the field goal. But you need to know, do they use swinging gate, polecat, whatever it is you call it? You know, they put everybody over here on the left and 3 over here in the middle or the right, and check and see if you lined up properly. You got to know this. You got to practice against it. That's why they show it to you on film. All right, this is something that we use for many years, even during film study time. And people say, well, nowadays with Hudl, you don't necessarily need to do this. But this is a good thing to do. You have a an offense drawn up, and you just, I call it a hit chart. And I learned this, JT Weeks, Muscle Shoals, Alabama. JT was about 15, 20 years older than me, and we were sitting there on a Sunday film study, the first time I'd been with him on a Sunday film meeting. And I said, what you got there, Coach? He goes, my hit chart. And he had one of those pens that had all the colors on it, and the kind that meant you were a made man back when you were in elementary school. And he would draw a line every time they ran a play to the hole they ran, and then he would start counting it up. And then at the end, he would do it like by half. And he would do like, okay, they ran to the wide left 3 times. They ran like the buck. This is like a buck sweep hole right here. They ran the buck 4 times. See right there? All right. They ran the down 1 time. They ran the belly weak twice. You said, well, both of them got tight ends and all that. No, that's just to tell you where the holes are. Okay. And he would write notes down here, like if they had more than one play that hit that hole, he would say, put a B for belly or a T for like a long trap or whatever. But he wanted to know what holes, what gaps were they attacking along the defensive front. And then he would make notes up here, roll out pass, boot pass, drop back pass. And he just put a little tick mark there. And at the end, he would just put down the numbers. And sometimes it would just be like, just gobbles and gobbles of lines, look like one fat line coming. And you say right there, that's their favorite play. That's their favorite gap they attack. That's good to know. So you can fortify your front. All right, what about the special teams? What are they looking for? They want to get the jersey numbers on the other team's kicking teams. That matters. And then you sit there, you get the roster, and you go down it. And what we would do is get a copy of the roster, just print it off on the computer, and then highlight or put a mark, an O, a D by each of them. So what's that got to do with special teams? Well, now we look at it and say, let's say number 42 is a linebacker, but he's also a fullback or an H. I'm counting plays, and they got that joker playing on all special teams. I want to know that. And let's say he's something on the punt team, and it's late in the game, and you need a big play. That may be the guy to pick on because you know that joker's gassed. And you're watching the film, the special teams guy's not just watching special teams, he's watching the whole game. He's saying, look now, with 3 minutes to go in the game, 42 still playing linebacker. and still playing H, that joker's gassed. These are things you need to know, how much they play on offense or defense. Or, do they have a lot of numbers and they like playing guys who don't start so they can rest their starters? Do they use a lot of young, inexperienced guys on special? These are things to know. You can find that guy. You can find that guy that is a plug. They're just plugging him in so-and-so can get a break. Here's the other thing, too. Don't just watch their first punt or their first punt return, their first kickoff return, such as that. And say, all right, that's them. That's their kids. You got to watch everything because here's what it is. Go back to number 42. Let's say he's gassed in the fourth quarter. This is another thing that's good to know. They put a backup in there because he's gassed. He's been out there for 60 snaps. And here we are midway through the fourth quarter, and he's played 60, 70 snaps. And he said, Coach, give me one blow. Let me get some water and have a seat for this punt. And then they put that 9th or 10th grader out there. And guys, there's a reason why that 9th or 10th grader wasn't starting. You follow me? There's a reason why 42 has been out there on every punt since the game started. Now he's not. This is the kind of thing you need to know. Who is the sub for that guy? Find that out. You get that through film study. What is the average distance of kicks and punts? Now, it's hard to get hang time on film. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. That's a good in-person thing, but you can get an idea on film. But get the distance. You can get that. In the air distance. You need to practice all week when you're doing your special teams time, your pre-practice, when you got your return guys catching punts and kickoffs. They need to practice getting that distance. They need to practice getting that distance. They need to know, say, okay, I need to be 40 yards from the line of scrimmage this week. On kickoff, that guy has never kicked it deeper than the 9. So where you want to line up? The 5. That's what I say. That way it's going to be in front of him, just like an outfielder a guy's tagging up on him. He wants to get behind the ball and catch it with a running start at about the 9, 10, 11-yard line, and now he can go find his hole. But you never want to catch a kick or going backwards. So you always want to line up deeper than the average distance that they kick it. And this is important. Also, too, if the kicker also plays on offense or defense, does his leg get tired? And does the distance change as the game goes? Do they punt or kick directionally? If you got a good return man, are they always going to punt it to their sideline? That'd be a good time, to late sneak a guy out deep on that side, nothing else, to fair catch it, to keep from getting the roll. Or do they kick directionally? Like, do they do the pooch kick? The lob kick, just kick it up, about the 35 so there's no returns, because those guys got to practice catching the ball that week and fair catching it. Where are the weaknesses in their punt and field goal protection? Who is the guy that stands up and doesn't get low on field goal and extra point? Who is that guy? That's why I tell my linemen every week, don't be that guy when we're practicing extra point. Don't be that guy. Don't be the one that they all sit there on film on Sunday and say, that's the guy. And they're going to put the baddest joker they got on him. He's going to hit you in the mouth every cockeyed extra point field goal. Okay, so keep your butt down. Find out who's the weak guy. Okay, who's the guy that's out there just to give, who is the 250-pound 9th grade lineman who's just out there to get some experience and to give the other guys a break. He may weigh 250, but he's soft as a marshmallow. Attack him. Do they have any schemes that can present problems like spread punt? When I say spread punt, I mean sure enough spread punt. I mean, with that kind, they go from number to number and spread your butt out. Again, I mentioned the pooch kick, the sky kick. These are things that are different. They're not traditional. Do they like the onside kick like the dude from Arkansas? They do that a lot. Do they like to block punts? Are they bringing pressure? You see that more and more. Teams that say, screw the return. They put a guy with good hands back there. They say, fair catch it. We're going after the punt. I've been on staffs where we did that. What are they trying to do? So, well, they ain't blocked the punt in 3 games. That don't mean anything. It just means they ain't been successful. Look and see. Are they bringing pressure or are they trying to set up a wall? Where do they return their kicks and punts? I said, what do you mean by that? They're going to return it whatever. No. Are they setting the wall to their sideline? That kind of thing. Again, we come back to a lot of coaches. Football coaches, we're control freaks. So we're going to control that, and we feel like we keep it right there in front of us and close to us. And so they're going to run to their sideline. They also feel like I won't get a clipping penalty because I'll be in the referee's ear. We're going to run it down our sideline. Check that kind of stuff out. Where do we need to return kicks and punts? Where is their weakness? Who is somebody that gets out of their alley? Who is somebody that just jogs down the field? Who's the lazy butt on the kickoff team or the punt team? The guy, the older kid that's pissed off because he's not starting, and they got him on special teams. Find that guy. Check out body language. Say, that guy really don't want to be there. That dude, the only reason he's out there right now because his daddy's big in the community. And they just got to find a place to get him on the field. Find that stuff out by watching film. Look at their body language. Can we block a punt? What is the operation time on punts? That means from snap until kick. What is the average time? And again, even if you're doing it on film, as long as you're consistent, the clock operator is consistent, you're getting an idea. What is the hang time on? And that's not become as big a deal as it used to be with more people directionally punting, but if they got a traditional punter, get that hang time. You may want to tell your return man, listen, dude, he's getting 4 to 5 seconds, just fair catch him. Is the punt snap an adventure? Is it, can you hear the circus music playing every time they punt because the snap has a better hang time than the punt does? Dun, 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 dun. That's what I mean by circus music. All right, do they have a fake punt or field goal? Have they shown it? Because I can promise you this, if they've got one and they see something on you doing exactly what I'm saying right here, they're fixing to do one to you. So check out and see if they got a fake punt. Or look and see, look on the punt team, who are the protectors? They run a shield punt? Who's the shield? Is it big old jug butt linemen? Or is it H's, fullback type kids? That matters. If they're back there with, a lot of 60s and 70 numbers in the wall and the shield behind the line, those guys aren't going to do it, more than likely. But if they got eligible numbers, and see where they play on where are they? Are they a fullback? Are they a tight end? What is the punter's depth from the line of scrimmage? That matters. And a lot of that teams do it based on their snapper. They say, okay, he's good at 10. All right, take one step and punt it, punter. All right, well, he's a great snapper. Put him at 15. We had one several years ago, man, he could whip that thing back there. We didn't get a single punt block. And I don't know if we hadn't done a worse job of blocking if they'd have blocked the punt, because he just whipped it back there and the punter got it out of there. So get the depth. That matters. Find the launch point. If you're the kind of team that wants to block a punt, find the launch point. Your kid, don't just say, hey, go block the punt. Tell them where's their launch point. So your launch point's at 7. Put a cone down there. Put a rag down there. Say, this is your launch point. This is where you need to come right here. This is where you need to leave your feet and come across the front of the punter's foot. Okay. Do they shift on punt? Need to know this in case it's 4th and 4 and they do a hard shift. You jump because your kids hadn't seen it all week and you hadn't mentioned it to them. Do they shift? Do they use swinging gate and polecat? I mentioned that a while ago. Special teams guy, you may need to know that. That's something you got to practice. I recommend you start practicing that crap in the summertime. Right? And you never know who's going to do it. And I've known teams that did it, and they only did it one time, and they took it and they headed that joker out of the film. So you better know how to do it even if the other team doesn't, but be aware of it. Do they like unbalanced? Do they unbalance the OL on a field goal from the hash? Like if it's on the right hash, do they bring a tackle or a guard over to the left? Because now they're kicking it at an angle. So those are the kind of things that matter, because now you may want to come off the back side. Especially on the right hash, you want to come off your left side. That way when you come across the holder, you're not going to run into him because he's on the right, because the kicker's using his right foot. Things like this matter. Oh, what about the DL? What do they look for on film? Their top run plays. What do they love to run? Power, zone, wide zone. Who's their best O-lineman? Who's their worst O-lineman? You may be flexible on your defensive front. Say, hey, Jim, you're going to play left side this week. Then you walk away and say, Jim's fixing to get fat this week, Hoss, because that right guard can't play. That's the kind of stuff you need to look at. What type of splits do they get? Do they vary based on the player situation? If they like to run a read, are they cheating the tackle out, trying to get that 5 technique wider for the read? These are things that you need to practice. Now, your D lineman may never notice this, but you need to know it. That way, maybe you can tell the DC and he can inform the linebacker, say, hey, alert the D line when they get in this split. Or do they adjust their splits? Some teams like to widen their splits at the point of attack. Some teams will tighten up their splits when they're going to do a double team. And I know that's hard to do from a sideline angle, but if you get an end zone shot, you can do that all day. If I'm a D-line coach, I'm living in the end zone shot. Do they cut block? You need to know this, especially if you got a kid who loves to pin his ears back and come. And they're cutting. So, Coach, cutting's illegal. Not if you do it immediately. Not as long as it's your first move up there in the front. That's one place where they still let them play football, in that box. Do guards align deeper when they're pulling? Y'all see this? I see it in the pro game. Heck, I don't even watch pro football usually until December or January. And I saw it in the cockeyed playoffs. You know, I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm saying, right guard's fixing to pull or pass it. And he did. I'm not a genius. Anybody can see that. Do they get deeper? If they're a team that likes to pull their tackles, do they get deeper? Do they vertical pass set, or do they aggressive pass block? Do they slide pass pro? Are they soft or light in their stance on pass plays? These are kind of things you can get from film study. Say, look, he's kind of sitting back a little bit. He's on his heels. They're going to do a pass set. You know, do they do traditional kick slide? And, you know, all this. These are things you need to know because it may change the technique that you stress that week in practice with your kids. Are they predominantly a gap or a zone scheme? Because on a gap scheme, your linemen are going to get down blocks and or double teams. Against the zone scheme, you'll get some double teams, depends, maybe one. But you're not. They don't have to worry about some guy coming in ear holding them versus a zone scheme. So if they're predominantly gap or zone, you need to know this as a D-line coach. Does the OL do anything that might tip off the play? Like we mentioned earlier, light stances. You know, they get in a light stance, it's probably going to be a pass, especially when you look at down and distance and you know their tendencies. They're 50-50 on first down. And you're just looking at it, and they barely got their hand on the ground, the ones that got their hand down. The tackles are standing up, but their weight's back on their heels. That's a pass, Jack. Or it's something that wants to look like a pass, a draw or screen. But things like that, you need to know as a D-line coach. All right. Be sure to enter all the run plays in huddle. That's what we do. Say, hey, man, you get all the run plays in huddle. What about the linebacker coach? What does the backfield tell us about the play? Do they have tendencies? Are they heavy to the tight end or the H? Do they flip or move any offensive lineman? Like take the left guard and put him over on the right side. How many running backs do they play? You know, who is the main running back? Who's the dude? Track their touches based on alignment and situation. Do guards or uncovered OL change their splits? Does it give away plays? What pass routes do their linebackers run? You know, are they running like stab routes in the middle? Are they running shoot routes to the flat? Are they swinging? Are they flaring? What are they doing? Do they run empty sets? Make sure linebackers know their alignment rules if they do, especially when they shift into empty. Last thing you want is to be left there with no linebackers in the middle of the field. That's an automatic quarterback draw. So they shift into that. Enter what gap the ball was ran in and what direction on each run play in the huddle. You know, if your staff, y'all got your own terminology and you say power right, you may not want to put the gap because you know where it is. But if it's zone, I'd recommend you putting like backside A, front side B. To give you an idea, do they bend it? Do they bang it? Do they bounce it? You need to know this, okay? Doing things like the hit chart that I showed you earlier. All right, what about the secondary coach? Who is their top receiver? Obviously. How many times are their wide receivers targeted? How many times do they catch it? What are the wide receivers splits in alignment? Do they give away anything? Kind of like the O-line. You know, like on a wider, do they get wider if they're going to run a slant, an in-cutting route? Do they get tighter if they're going to run a corner or an out? Things like this will give stuff away. You get this from film study. What are their top 3 pass concepts? You know, they like vertical, they like smash, they like cross. You need to know these things as a secondary coach. Your kids need to know that, by the way. Do they run pick routes, especially, you know, short yardage goal line? Do they run double moves? They're going to run a hitch and go. They're going to run a screen and go. Things like this that you need to work on during the week. Not just talk about them during the week. Work on them during the week. Enter each wide receiver route into huddle. Give the DC a coverage for each formation. Say, Coach, this formation here, this is what I believe we need to be. Now, the DC is going to make the call, but it's your job as a secondary coach. You need to say, okay, we need to run cover 2 versus this. Yeah, I know we've run cover 1 versus this in the past, but here's why, coach. Justify yourself. All right, O-line coach, what should he look for on film? Get the numbers and positions of their box players. Like if they're a 4-4 team, you need to get the 2 ends, the 2 tackles, the 2 inside linebackers. What are their numbers? What position do they play? Tell your kids on Monday. First time y'all get together before the game, tell them, say, this is number so-and-so. He does this, he does that. He's pretty good. This is so-and-so right here. So he'll give up on a play in a hurry. So you keep fighting, play the echo of the whistle, that kind of thing. Enter all their defensive fronts in the huddle. Okay, you need to know their fronts. Enter all the defensive stunts and blitzes in the huddle. Make a note of their favorite blitzer and their favorite blitz. You know, what's the number of their favorite blitzer? He may not be the best linebacker, and a lot of teams will do that. They'll sacrifice the least linebacker. Do we need to account for him with a lineman, or can the running back pick him up on pass pro? What do we have to do? Who's their favorite blitzer? What's their favorite blitz? Is it inside? Is it outside? What is it? Does the defensive line stem? Move. They set up in an over front, and as soon as the quarterback says the first word, they shift to an under front. Or they set up in an even and shift to an odd. So you need to know from what front into what front if they stem. And you got to practice this too. Make sure your scout team defense is doing this so your guys do not jump when they shift. On passes, do they bull rush or do they like to use moves? And what is the move? What is their favorite move? This DN here is pretty good, but he's only got one move. This DN right here, he's going to come right down the middle and run over you. Get your butt down. Work on bull rush technique that week. Okay, blocking a bull rush. You say, well, I do that every week. Do it more if you're going against a team that's got a guy that can really push. These are the kind of things O-line needs to know. Does the DL play technique? Are they squeezing down blocks? If they're an odd front, they're getting zeros and fours. Are they two gapping? You don't see that much anymore in high school. Sometimes you see it from a nose. Do they read hats? Do they pinch? Are they getting in fours and pinching 80% of the time into the B gap? They might as well be four eyes if they are. Or are they attack and get penetration kind of team? Just run up the field, cause chaos. Mess up your pullers, things like this. You need to know these things. You get it from film study. All right, report to the OC and the head coach what you find, what you see. They may go, I didn't see that. Let me go back and look at that. They say, yeah, I saw that too. What do you think we ought to do? You got to collaborate with your staff. Wide receiver coach, what's he doing? Get the numbers and positions of the secondary players. Find out who their best cover guy is, who their worst cover guy is. Who's the guy they're hiding? Who's the corner they're always flipping to the boundary because there's less space over there? Maybe more importantly, who's the corner that's always on your best receiver? That may mean you want to use some motion and shifting to see if you can get a matchup on a lesser player. Enter all their defensive coverages in the huddle, just like the other coaches. What is their favorite coverage based on down and distance? All right, 1st and 10, they like cover 2. Okay, 3rd and 6, they like cover 3. Do they tip their hand? Do they let you know what they're going to do by how they're aligned? How do the DBs align, Are they over, like nose to nose, 5 yards off? Are they inside, taking away the slants and any in cuts? Or are they outside, going to funnel everything back into the safeties? Where is the wide receiver's leverage on the release when the ball is snapped? Is it inside leverage, outside leverage? Is it 50-50 because they're head up? And it's hard to get that from a press box camera angle. I know. But do your best and figure out that you do that by watching their reaction and watching the get off of the wide receivers. Oh yeah, he's inside. Sometimes I can't, on the line, all that crowd in there, I can't say, 1, 2, or 3. Watch the snap, put it in slow-mo. Where does he fit up? Same thing with the DB. Where's he fitting up right when the ball's snapped? That'll tell you, even if he's head up, he's favoring the inside. He's not going to get beat inside. Or if he's outside. If he's outside, they're trying to funnel everything back into the safeties. And that DB, that corner, is looking inside, that. How aggressive are the corners when they're in press coverage? A lot of teams get in press and they bailing like a son of a gun. That's not aggressive. A lot of teams, they get in press and they're putting hands on you, brother. You think it's a healing service at a charismatic church. They're laying hands on you every snap. So how aggressive are the cornerbacks in press coverage? Are they just doing it for show? Are they really physical dudes? Because remember now in high school, they can do that stuff. It's not like the pros. We're out there complaining, dude, they can put hands on them until the ball gets in there. Do we need to use motion? Because we can catch them, in a bad coverage because they don't rotate well, or they don't adjust well to motion or shifts. What are the things? These are what the wide receiver coach looks for. Can we use wide receiver screens? You go to the OC and say, Coach, I think we can screen them. I say, man, they're impressed. Yeah, but watch, Coach, they're bailing. He's okay, let me check. Hey, you're right. Let's use wide receiver screens this week, even though that guy's in our face. We're going to come off 3 steps, push that joker. He's going to bail like a son of a gun. We're going to come back, catch that screen. We're off to the races. What about quick passes? Just because they're pressing you don't mean you can't quick them. If you can win inside, you got slant. You can win outside, you got speed out. If you're faster than him and he's pressing you, run the cockeyed fade. How do they handle motion? Do they bump or roll to it? Mentioned that earlier for the DC. Report to the OC and the HC. Tell them what you found. Tell them what you like. That's why, you're on the staff too. They may not do what you think is right, but tell them this is what I see. And it may be something they didn't see. Or maybe you're seeing something that you thought was there that's not there, and they go back and look at it and say, no, you're right, they're doing this, but then they do this to make up for it. That's why there's more than one coach, so you can collaborate. Running back coach, what should you do? Check out the linebackers. How are they aligned? Who is their best linebacker? Do their outside linebackers apex to the field versus 2x2 or 3x1? Apex, are they 50-50? They're halfway between the inside receiver and the tackle. And that tells you right there you can probably run fade out. Fade with number 1 and out with number 2 at will. If they're apexing, these are things you need to know. Also, it tells the running back if he's apex, then he may blitz. So that's somebody I need to eyeball, make sure I check him before I get in my route. How far do the linebackers align off the ball? Are they deep? And I found this, the deeper the linebackers, the more athletic the linebackers. The closer they are to the line, the less athletic. And you'll go back, I haven't done a study, but just on my experience, if they got an ineligible number, they're in high school, they're probably close to the line of scrimmage. They're stand-up linemen. They're pluggers. Do the linebackers walk down when they're blitzing? They walk up there and do that foot stomping business. Do they show it when they're blitzing? They may not walk down, but you can see the want to in their eyes. They're back there, do they fake blitzing a lot? Like they're up there and they're bailing out. They're up there, because they know you got a long snap count, trying to put confusion. Running backs need to know this because, especially on passes, for who they have to block. Again, report to the OC and the head coach. All right, it's been a long one. I told you I was going to be more like a podcast. Most podcasts are about 40 to 50 minutes. This is dead on 50 right now. These are the freebies that we have. All you got to do is be a subscriber. I'm getting emails all the time saying, hey, Coach, send me what you got. Guys, this is not all of it, okay? I can send you all of it, but I just don't think you want all of it. If you want everything you see here, say, hey, Coach, send me the whole kit and caboodle. I'll do it. Contact me at siegel.chip@gmail.com or hit me up at Coach Chip on Twitter/X. Be sure to like and share the video. And before you leave today, subscribe to it. It is your first time with Football Talk with Coach Chip. It's not always like this. They're usually 15 to 25 minutes. They average about 20, and they have videos and they have diagrams. Like I said, this is more like a podcast today. All right. Until next time, y'all be elite.